to the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life. My name is Kyle Case, and I'll be your host on this amazing journey as we attempt to help you get the most out of your life. Today's guest, Vera Koo, is a first-generation Chinese-American woman whose life reads like an adventure in courage and reinvention. She's a wife, mother of 3, and grandmother of 6, author, entrepreneur, and retired professional athlete who broke barriers in action pistol shooting. Through her adulthood, she's enjoyed a variety of outdoor activities, including snow and water skiing, equestrian, windsurfing, and rucking and camping. Action pistol shooting, though, is where she's really excelled. Vera has been the national and world title holder in the sport and won the Bianchi Cup Women's Championship 8 times. She now competes in shotgun sports, specifically in sporting clays at the Huntsman World Senior Games. Vera's memoirs, The Most Unlikely Champion, and Wisdom and Things, Essays from an Unlikely Champion, share her remarkable journey from China and Hong Kong to the United States, her family's entrepreneurial successes, and the resilience that carried her through loss, faith, and unexpected triumph. Vera continues to mentor others with the hope that we all discover the unlikely champion within ourselves. Vera, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Wow, you have done a lot. And I know that we're only going to get to scratch the surface on some of the things that you've done. But I want to start right off with where you grew up. You grew up in Hong Kong. You were there for 12 years, and then you moved to the United States. You come from a very traditional Chinese family. Talk a little bit to us about what kinds of activities were available to a young Chinese-American woman, a young woman at the age of 12, I should say, as your family moved to the United States.
Well, I can start with how it was for me in childhood. We don't get to do much. I didn't have piano lessons, no ballet lessons. I just stay home and read and look out the window from our 3rd floor apartment. So after we got to United States, specifically San Francisco Bay Area, I went to school, but I didn't know one word of English. It was very difficult for me. And my classmate will hold an apple and then tell me apple. That's how I learned English. Then I watched Dennis the Menace. I mean, this is from my generation. I don't know if you know that program.
I know Dennis the Menace, yes.
Okay. So I watched that and I mimic their talking. And I tried to talk to strangers on the bus to practice my English. But my parents never liked the traditional Chinese family that insists that children bring home A's, straight A's. This is the Chinese way. But I did good work in school. And I don't have any kind of activity in sports. So I was not athletic, period. I didn't know how to swim, nothing. I couldn't even do a sit-up. By the time I graduated from high school, and it was required that I have to do a sit-up and a push-up, well, my classmate and my teacher was helping me to do 3 sit-ups.
Oh, wow.
For swimming, I tried to take lessons for 2 months, and then they let me get off from swimming the width of the pool. That's it.
So you didn't have a ton of sporting experience, it sounds like. But after you got married, your husband kind of introduced you a little bit to the world of outdoor activities. How did that go? And did you take to it right away, or was it something that you were a little hesitant about?
Well, before I got married, my mom told me, whatever your husband likes to do, make sure you keep him company. If you don't, someone else will. So I have to learn all the sports. I didn't know how to do any of them. I worked like a dog. For windsurfing, I practiced 7 days a week. On the weekend, my husband came. We windsurfed together. And I worked really hard for my snow skiing. I'm scared to death for the first 10 years. Every weekend. That's every weekend we go. And for all the holidays. And my children were on the ski team, weekend ski team. So we go. I ski for 40 years. I can ski double blind diamond. It's just because I practice so much.
It sounds like you started out doing a lot of these activities to be with your husband. You felt like that
Yes.
was the proper approach and the thing that you should do. Did you learn to love some of these things? And did you have a favorite activity?
You don't love anything when you don't know how to do them. But once you know how to do them, you like them better. I'm a workaholic, a natural workaholic. So I gravitate to a lot of work.
So, of the activities that you did with your husband, it sounds like you obviously started to really excel in the skiing area. You also did water skiing. You mentioned windsurfing. Um,
Yes.
so, I totally agree with you that at the beginning it seems a little intimidating and it can be very frustrating and embarrassing. But as you started to develop your skills and get better at them, did you find joy in these things?
Yes, it became a way of life for me. So to keep active was, my husband is like a jumping being. He just got to be moving. So I just go with him. I follow my husband. That's a Chinese way.
So,
Okay.
no, that's great. In your 30s, I understand that you kind of picked up the sport of equestrian. You started horseback riding. Tell
Yes.
us about that. What were the experiences that you had there?
Well, my husband rode throughout his childhood. He was doing jumping when he was in Brazil. He grew up in Brazil, uh, but he was born in China. And they have a Rotary Club in Singapore. There's not much to do since, we get to have a maid, a chauffeur, because my husband's position. And so I'm looking for things to do. We go to the Rotary Club to ride at 5:30 in the morning. And I like it.
Do you
And
still ride? Do you still ride horsebacks to this day?
no, I fractured my spine about the end of that stay, and I stayed in bed for 2 months. And after that, my husband started to take his first lesson in windsurfing. And I said to myself, I'm going to be there on the first day. Otherwise, forever, I'm trying to catch up. I don't ride anymore. If I ride, I will be totally dedicated to it because I don't want to get injured again.
I can see that whatever you decide to do, you end up being totally dedicated to it, which I think is a great example and a very impressive approach to activities and life for that matter. Tell us how you fractured your spine.
It was we're doing jumps, and that day the I was riding an ex racehorse because he's more sensitive to your hand. I mean, to my hand, and so I enjoy riding with that particular one. But that morning, he was jumpy. He was biting other people, other horses, and was fidgeting, and he took off without my knowing. So he ran high gallop and then he stopped abruptly and I went over his neck. My husband was saying that, why don't you do an acrobatic jump off? And I said, like, I know how. He knows how. I don't. So, but he saw the way I felt. He told me to usually once you fall, you're asked to get back up on the horse again, no matter what it is. So he took me out of the class and went to see a doctor. Not until the second doctor verified it was a fractured spine that I stayed in the hospital for a week. And then after that was 2 months in bed, cannot get out at all. But yeah, I was there on the first day of the windsurfing class.
So I want to get to windsurfing in just a second, but when you went over the head, you went over the front end of the horse, you're laying on the ground. Did you feel like something had cracked and broken, or were you just happy to still be alive?
I don't know much at that point about injuries and how severe it can be. But my husband just got back from the United States. We were in Singapore at that time. And he just got back from United States. My coach fractured her spine just the month before.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah. And my first doctor diagnosed that I was okay. But I saw myself in the mirror. My face was like the color of the white sheet.
Yeah.
And then I went home and his auntie says, you should get another opinion. We went to the second doctor. The second doctor would not let me get out of hospital. He made me stay there for a week. So I understand this minor fracture. You can be paralyzed if you have a small fall of any kind. So I was lucky, you know.
Yeah. So you spent a week in the hospital, and then you said that you spent 2 months in bed following that. What was your mindset? What was going through your mind during that 2 months of convalescence?
All I was trying to focus was the PT. There was 15 exercise I have to do 3 times a day. And I make myself do that 3 times a day. By the end of the 2 months, my back felt like a piece of board, hard. So I understand that if you want to heal, you have to follow your doctor's prescription, direction to the letter.
And I know that you did that, and it sounds like you had a successful recovery because, as you said, you left the physical therapy. You had gone through that whole process, took care of yourself, followed the doctor's orders, put in the hard work. You did the dedication, you put in the hard work, and then you were there for the first day of windsurfing classes.
Yes.
What did that feel like in your heart to know that you had been through this pretty trying, difficult experience, and then here you are trying something brand new? Were you nervous? Were you excited? Were you proud of yourself? How did you feel?
I didn't have much time to feel because windsurfing is like, I don't know, I don't understand the force of wind, how it steer the sail. So I keep falling off the board, and all I can do is focus on what I'm supposed to do. Yeah, I don't have time to looking back and think too much of what happened. I just go forward for the most part.
That's a very laser focused way to approach new experiences and life in general. You've had setbacks in your life. Obviously, you've had difficulties, you've had challenges. Most recently, you've had a few minor injuries that got you a little bit worried. Tell us about that.
Well, I have so many injuries. Which one are you referring to?
Well,
I fractured I have a spiral fracture on my leg. Is that the one you're talking about?
Well, tell us about your spiral fracture. Yeah.
Okay, I was practicing at the range in Columbia, Missouri. I live in California, so I fly there to practice on the match range. And that day was raining, I was drizzling. So I have 5 layers on top and then 3 layers on my legs. And at the end of the day, after the practice, I didn't see anybody come to the range that day. And I was the only one left. And I cleaned my gun and I was cleaning out my garbage. And I crossed a rope. It's about just below the waist. And I crossed that rope maybe 3 or 4 times during the day already. And I guess at the end of the day, my hind leg must have relaxed a tiny bit and touched the rope, and the ringlet on my boot caught the rope, and I fell forward. And as I was going down, and I think, this is not very far. So with all my ski falls, I mean, you get spectacular falls with skis coming off and all that. Nothing happened to me, right? So I figured this is really close. It's okay. And I didn't know. I remember feeling a sharp pain, and that's it. I lay on the ground. And I was just thinking I should check my leg, see if it's broken or something. So I pulled my leg to the left, and my foot fell to the right. And I said, that doesn't look right. I never had a broken leg, so I don't recognize things, right? But it doesn't look right, look like it's broken. So actually, I held up my leg at a 45-degree angle. I crawled to my car. That's 25 yards away. I called 911. But a year later, I was back in the national championship because the doctor was telling me how long it takes. You cannot touch down on the first 3 months. And then he tells me the graduate progress and timing. And I'm just counting in my head. And I said, that's exactly 1 year from the next national. I will be there, and I was there.
You set your goals, you work towards them, and then you accomplish them, don't you? I think that's just an amazing example once again. Somewhat recently, you've had a few falls, and they started to worry you to the point where you thought maybe you better take a look at some medical advice. What have you found about that? What have you learned from that experience?
Okay, I was in the garage. You know, I'm always rushing, and every minute of the day is scheduled for something. So I'm just in the garage trying to get something from the third shelf up, and I just thought, you know, I step on a generator. It's round, so but I step on that thing to get something from the third shelf many times, and I'm just on my way up, and I was thinking, you know, in case I fall, I should grab this place or grab that place. Well, the next thing I know, I was falling. I found on the floor of the garage, and there was a lot of things on the side in back of me. Somehow, my head didn't hit that. But I was screaming, and my husband came into the garage, and he says, "What happened?" He said, "Did you hit your head on those items?" You know, and I said, "No." But I consulted orthopedics, and the doctor told me I was lucky. When I went to practice for the next trip in Columbia, Missouri, I thought I cannot bend down. So I figured I try to find a way that I can lift up my suitcase by standing up. And then I told my husband, I said, by the time I arrive at the shooting range for practice, if I cannot get down on the floor on the prone to a prone position, I will come home. So my thing has always been that if I get injured for anything, I will still head out to the competition. But I can always fly back. But I would not cancel. Well, it's just a program that I created for myself to get myself going.
Yeah, well, and I can see that you do. As I said, you set your goals, you work towards them, and you accomplish them. I want to learn a little bit more from you about this action shooting sport. Tell us what it is and how you got into it.
Well, I started shooting is because I was afraid of handguns, afraid of guns. So I took a class. And then a few decades later, I did many disciplines. I try out in different disciplines in the shooting. And then one time I was at the national championship for IPSC. It's like what SWAT team does, you know, scenario shoots. And a father of the champion came over and talked with me. She says, well, your strength suits more towards the event called Bianchi Cup. That's action pistol championships. He says, well, try that. You should do that. My strength is accuracy. I'm super accurate. And consistency is, consistency, I know where they come from, comes from practice. So you have to labor over practice. And I have no problem with putting hours into practice. And so I tried that. My success came because my personality matches what is required in Bianchi Cup. They require accuracy, and they require consistency, and you have to be able to be the kind of person that put a lot of attention into details. And I analyze everything half to death. You know, it's just my habit. And that's why I am successful in that particular event. Other ones requires me running. I'm not field and track.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not that type. So I cannot excel in the discipline that requires that.
So explain to us what a Bianchi Cup competition looks like. When you step onto the field of competition, how does that unfold in front of you?
Okay, Bianchi Cup is, I understand from my peers that Bianchi Cup is the most difficult one to do in the shooting sport. It has 4 different parts. One is moving target. You shoot at the moving target. moves from left to right and right to left at 6 feet per second, 10 feet per second for 6 seconds, and 4 different distance. The farthest one is 25 yards. And for my level of shooting, I'm required to shoot within 4 inches of the center. And anything out there, it'll be deduction on the point. Then the second part is steel plates. It's a bank of 6 steel plates in front of you, different distance, 10 to 25 yards. And every shot is 10 points. And the third one is called a practical station. Starts from 25, starts with 10, 15, 25, 50. The farther ones is 50 yards, and I am required to shoot within that 4 inch for my level. And the fourth one is barricade. Barricade is like a door in front of your face, and you mount your gun. You draw with the right hand, you shoot on the left, and you draw your gun and you change hand and shoot on the right. So that is, where the signal to start is when the target turns, you draw. And everything to me has to be very precise. I have to leave about maybe 0.27 seconds at the end of the run, just so that if I messed up, if I have a little hiccup, I have a little time. Otherwise, well, if you shoot too fast, you compromise on your shots. If you shoot too slow, you get a penalty. And for Bianchi Cup, the possible points is 1,920 points over 3 days competition. And for the women's division to win top place, the difference is only 1 point.
So it's highly competitive.
Yes.
Wow. Well, congratulations on a record-setting number of championships. Again, I think that's amazing. Just absolutely incredible. You don't stop with one thing. You keep moving from one to the next and adding all of these amazing experiences to your story. You, in addition to handgun shooting, you also do shotgun sports, specifically the sporting clays, and you've done that here at the Huntsman World Senior Games. Tell us about that sport and how you got introduced to the Huntsman World Senior Games.
Well, it was one of my shooting friend. He called me one day. He says, this is after I retired from my handgun. And he says, Vera, you're going to compete again. I said, no, I'm done with that. I retired. But he says, there's a sporting clay. And during the COVID shutdown, I took up shotgun because one of the range is open. And I figured, I just going to go there, take a lesson, right? And then there's hardly anybody there. I wipe down, sanitize everything I touch. And so I started there. My first teacher was a gunsmith. He chose my gun. And then I told him, and he asked me, what is your intention for this sport? He knew what I did with handgun. I said, no, I'm not going to compete with that. I just want to learn how to shoot to a decent level. And he says, okay. And he says, there are 3 kinds. There's trap, there is skeet, and there's sporting clay. Sporting clay is the most difficult kind of clay shooting. But if you learn sporting clay, you can learn the other 2 easily. So I went to see it the first time at the senior game. And I was so happy to see so many older people congregate in one place. And I said to myself, when you get old, you can still do things. And this is really exciting for me. I practice a lot because I'm a slow learner. Yeah, my teacher told me that. He said, Vera, I agree with you. You told me that you're a slow learner. Yes, I agree. You're a slow learner.
It may take you a little while to get there, but I can tell that you do get there. You definitely put the time in that is required. Do you have a favorite experience from the Huntsman World Senior Games?
Seeing the possibility, and I always go to practice on match range, so I would go there the following year to practice. every summer. I just like the possibility that the Huntsman Senior Game is providing to everybody and make everybody active and stay active. And, you can make a lot of good friends there.
Yeah, that is definitely an important part of the games and senior sports and master sports in general. The competition is important. The competition is why you get into it, but the ability to meet like-minded people, to be buoyed up and to find those relationships,
Yes.
that's a very important aspect as well. We've got about 20 seconds left. What's
Okay.
one piece of advice that you would share with everybody through your experiences that you've experienced?
I believe that everybody has infinite amount of potentials. It's just we don't know it ourselves. So I also believe that you would just never give up on anything. No matter what happens in life, you just don't give up and try to survive the episode and move on to the next one. It's a wonderful life, no matter what it is, even with this up and downs.
There's always going to be up and downs, Vera, but I can see that you have weathered them wonderfully, and we want to wish you just the very best in everything else that you have going on. And I know that there's going to be something coming down the road that you're going to take on the challenge and just excel at it. So thank you. Thanks for being a part of the games. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Just a couple of things to wrap us up here. We are well on our way in our preparation for the 2026 Huntsman World Senior Games. We're working on our master schedule, we're reserving the venues, and we're preparing our recruitment plans. If you want to plan ahead, team registration for the 2026 Huntsman World Senior Games will open on January 1st at high noon this year. Individual registration opens on March 1st, and the games will run from October 5th through the 17th for 26. So put that on your calendar. Next week's guest, Rocky Jackson, is a longtime athlete and retired employment labor attorney who was originally drafted by the Cleveland Indians in 1969, and he spent his collegiate years playing baseball against future MLB greats. He's now 75 and thriving after double hip replacements. He plays tennis and golf several times a week. He travels the world, staying active with his wife, and lives by the belief that you have to use it or you lose it. You don't want to miss that show. Remember to tune in live next and every Thursday at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time on AM 1450 or FM 93.1 for the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life. We take this live show and turn it into a podcast, and you can subscribe anywhere that you find your favorite podcasts. If you're listening by podcast, take a moment and give us a rating, write a quick review. That really helps us spread the word. You can also find this and previous shows right on our website. Once again, that is seniorgames.net, so check that out. Today's inspirational thought comes from the great writer Maya Angelou, who once said, "I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it," which I think is great advice. Until next Thursday, stay active.